Hello and welcome once again to another helping of Mr H's Hot Pot. You join me this evening on March the 31st, 2017, where as of midnight tonight, a television licence in the UK is going up by £1.50. So, on April Fool's Day tomorrow, the licence that currently costs you £145.50 will cost you £147. It's the first rise in 6 years. But before I start discussing the price rise of the television licence, I'd like to put forward a case for a subscription BBC. Now, in my opinion, one of the advantages of the BBC becoming a subscription service is I think the quality, rather than go down, would actually improve. Because as it currently stands, the BBC know that if it wanted to, it could broadcast 5 hours of the Director General farting in his office, and the funding would be guaranteed and secure. Whereas if they was forced out there into the commercial market, they would have to up the game and start competing. Now, another advantage is it would also end impartiality. Now, before people say, well, that's a bad thing, the BBC is not impartial. I don't care what you say, it's politically biased towards the left. It's also pro-EU. Both the general election in 2015 and the recent EU referendum and debates thereafter have proved where the BBC's heart truly lies. If it was a subscription service, it would be free to follow its heart, rather than keep trying having this impartiality clause thrown out at it. Now, I'm sure that over at Sky, Rupert Murdoch has political convictions like the rest of us. However, he knows that if he pushes his ideas over and they're not popular with the subscribers, he'll start losing money. So, it keeps him in check. And the BBC would have to do the same. So therefore, I'd argue that the BBC will become more impartial if it was a subscription service. But by far, the biggest advantage would be it would end evasion. And it would also free the courts up who are currently prosecuting those who can least afford the licence. Excuse me. It would free them up to do more important work rather than chasing people down who've not got a TV licence. You know, basically the choice would be either pay up or you'd be frozen out. That would be brilliant for people like myself who don't like the BBC and don't want the BBC service, because simply we could just choose to opt out and we wouldn't have threatening letters coming or people coming knocking on our doors demanding why we haven't took out a TV licence. Now, the BBC currently pumps out its signals free to air, so it makes it very difficult for people like myself to actually prove that we've not been watching TV illegally. And I think that there should be some onus on the BBC to secure its signals and protect its product. Now, Sky, although they have the constant battle with the television pirates and encryption hasn't solved that, rather than go after the end user, they go after the pirates themselves and then levy big fines against them. And it also means they can concentrate their efforts on the pirates themselves rather than the end users. Basically, they look at it like a snake. You cut off the head and the rest of the body dies with it. So that's my reasons for the BBC becoming a subscription service. Now, back to the price hike. As I've stated, it's the first price rise in 6 years. Gordon Brown's government, towards the end of his tenure, he actually dealt with the Royal Charter, not him personally, but people on his behalf, and they come to an agreement that the licence fee would be froze for 6 years. So it hasn't risen. That's not because the BBC has wanted that. That's because the government's told them that they can't rise it. Now, they've been told as of April, or April the 1st, that's the earliest they could put it up again. And straight away the BBC was in there and said, yeah, we want to put it up. I think the figure they're hoping to get it to is £155 by 2020. So as you can see, each year it'll rise. So whilst it's only been a rise of, say, 25 pence over 6 years, it'll start gradually rising till they get it to the figure that they want. So, what about myself? What about myself and this £1.50? Well, the £1.50 is going back in my pocket, along with the other £145.50 that I refused to give them. And just to reiterate, I don't watch or record live television, and I don't watch or download from the BBC iPlayer. I'm perfectly legal and wish to remain so. I do not condone television licence evasion, although when it's put up against some of the crimes that Jimmy Savile and other top BBC presenters committed at Television Centre, I don't think it's as important. Anyway, until the next time, bye bye for now.